Now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am now joined by the candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, for Abuja South Federal Constituency, comprising Gwagwalada, Kwali, Kuje, and Abaji, Comrade Gloria Okolugbo. The National Assembly hopeful is a former commissioner for multilateral relations, and Abuja office, as well as former commissioner for energy in Delta State. Thank you very much for joining us, madam.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine.
All right. Let's start with the campaigns for the election. How challenging is running on a relatively new party, talking about the NNPP, and second, as a woman?
Well, the NNPP is not a new party. It has just been given a new lease of life, because a number of candidates have come on board, basically led by His Excellency, the former governor of Kano State, a very competent and detribalized and experienced politician and public servant. He served in so many sectors. And so together with himself, so many candidates have crossed into the new Nigerian party, and they are vying for so many of the seats. In fact, I think we have more people, more competent people vying under the NNPP tickets. I can make bold to say that, than most of the other parties, especially where it comes to track record, integrity. Don't forget, when a man has integrity, he attracts other people who have integrity. And the party has been an old one, but having His Excellency as the flag bearer has propped up the chances of the party, has given it a new lease of life, and it's taking a life of its own, preparing to push forth a new Nigeria.
All right, you know, Abuja is...
I'm talking about campaigns as a woman.
Okay.
Well, I've been in the political field for quite some years now, and it's not campaign for me. It's no longer a new territory. We're at home with it. It's interesting when we mix with the electorate, we talk to them, we campaign in their midst, they run with our agenda. I'm quite at home with the terrain. I'm a politician.
All right. Abuja is relatively different from other parts of the country. So how will you describe politics in the FCT?
Politics in the FCT is quite dynamic. It's actually not the same as other places. It's the capital city, and Abuja is calling and has been calling for detribalized Nigerians. You can't play politics in Abuja if you're not detribalized. Abuja is a melting pot. We have everybody from all over the country here. Basically, when Abuja was carved out, it was civil servants were deployed from all over the country, and spirited efforts were made to ensure that there's a planned development for every part of the city. Now, this development has been phased out over the years. Whether you like it or not, some parts of the city have suffered. And the parts that have suffered the most is Abuja South. And that is where I get interested. I had been working as a non-profit person, as a non-state actor for several years in the North. And I've been quite familiar with the people and the challenges they face. So it was very easy for me, even when I had crossed into politics, to be in tune with the people. They're very detribalized, they're very welcoming, they're very warm, and we have, you know, populations, vast populations of every single tribe and ethnic group in Nigeria, here in Abuja. Now, I've lived in Gwagwalada for quite a long while, and the southern part of Kaduna has suffered. Abuja South, comprising of Gwagwalada, Kwali, Kuje, and Abaji, it's not enjoying commensurate development as the Abuja North. And that's because nobody is speaking. Unfortunately, it's impacting on all of us, because that is supposed to be the hub that feeds the Abuja city. Unfortunately, the challenges are catching up with even the city center. So it's about time that focus comes to Abuja South for proper and even development.
You know, yesterday on the program, I had the national women leader of the APC, and we critically talked about the impact of women thus far in this campaign. So as a woman, I will also put this question to you. As a female contestant, how will you describe the impact of women on the party's campaigns so far?
The impact of women on the campaign is it's commensurate with the kind of positioning each woman has. It's not a block that says that it's just a woman thing. Your femininity is one aspect of you, just like the masculinity is an aspect of a man. Basically, in this field of politics, you first of all consider competence, the ability to be abreast with the issues, and then the issue of integrity, which is a major thing that is bedeviling development, you know, that's setting back development in our society. Once you set that in place and you're talking about impacting on the campaigns, then your level of impact on the campaign will be determined by what you know. You can't give what you don't have. And somehow we have a core of women who have just also been waiting to have a chance to show what their competence and what their capacity is all about. Nigeria is rich with a lot of people, human resources. We hope that this dispensation, with the new electoral law, there's a lot of hope that people who will be thrown up in the next election will actually be people who have the capability, the capacity, the know-how, and the ability to actually be in governance and bring about the development that is seriously needed in this country. Never before have we needed a turnaround like we need it now.
There are many people who say it's still difficult for women to get elected in the North. As an experienced politician, as a woman, what have you seen that paints a different picture?
Well, I've been working in the North, like I told you, for years as a development worker. And if there's a part of this country that has actually suffered so much, ironically, for the last 8 years, 7 to 8 years, it is the North. And I say that the Northern woman's body has been used as a battlefield, and the back of the Northern man has been used as a punishment for him. It's been very sad, the kidnappings, the horror we have seen just because somebody goes on a train. He faces the kind of humiliation and threats to his life for months. We just had about 13 people released who were kidnapped from Kaduna South. I lived in Gwagwalada in that same university quarters where people were kidnapped, you know, not too long ago. The same issues, you know. So Northern Nigeria is a place where you cannot play politics or want to lead the people if you don't understand the issues. Now, understanding the issues is one thing, and actually caring about and knowing how to address them is another thing entirely. As a woman, the first instinct of the Northerner is to protect women. So it's a lack of knowledge or understanding of the people that will probably make people think it is difficult. For me, I find it easier. I find it all embracing. I find the people warm. I have been with them for so many years. Their first instinct is to protect you, especially where they know the Northerners are leaders, and so they can perceive, they can tell, you know, where you have good leaders and bad leaders. You know, the battle in Nigeria is not about the North and South, neither is it about religion, neither is it about the sex, male or female. It's about the political elites and about the people who are suffering. Probably you will say the proletariat or the common man and the bourgeois. So every other thing is made to look like, okay, it's either a religion thing that makes it difficult to operate, or it's a male-female thing. All your questions I can see are skewed towards that. But I would actually let you know that it's more about people playing up the rich against the poor, you know, and making the people who are actually suffering the brunt of bad leadership to want to always embrace oppression and ensure that oppression is perpetrated because they give them the impression that we are your own. Well, we are your own, you've been there, and then there's no difference. My life is not different. The outsider cares for me more than you who is an insider. And it's a little bit more than that, you know. So I found it a lot more. I've been more at home for years and years. I've lived in the North for upwards of 30 years. I'm 53 years old. And I schooled here all of my life, and all my advocacy has been here. When I was working in the presidency, I was living in Gwagwalada and going to work in the metropolis from Gwagwalada. And my street in Gwagwalada, nothing about it has changed, except few houses have been renovated. The dire need for development in Abuja South, it's a desperate situation. If you go around Abuja, there's a springing forth of estates running across from Life Camp. The whole of the airport road has opened up. The Lugbe axis has opened up. What's going on in Abuja South? As we speak, there are still bandits who are occupying parts of Abuja South, and it's impacting on the rest of the capital territory. And so there's so much work to be done, and it's not the work for learners. It is the kind of work that somebody who is competent, somebody who has the know-how, somebody who understands the terrain, and who is at peace with the people can do. A colleague of mine who is contesting in Niger State said his houseboy told him that this woman that is campaigning in your party, her name is Gloria. I'm always hearing about her. She's always coming up. I said, yes, I want to hear that the ordinary man out there on the street knows about my manifesto, knows what I'm bringing on board. I had to translate my manifesto into the local languages, and it's erring because I know that I have to engage with the people. I know that I'm here because I want to speak with the people, you know. And when they know that, what challenges could you have, for God's sake, with seeking leadership in the midst of a people who are desperately in need for proper leadership? I'm at home in Abuja South, and it's a walk in the park for me because I enjoy what I do. I enjoy engaging with the people. And given the platform, it will give me the enabling environment to now stand on behalf of the people properly, to see that the things that they need, like electricity, water, I see the issue of development as a human rights issue. I see the issue of development, the need for decent work, the need for basic education as a human rights, you know, issue. And seeing it from that point of view, it's their right. It's their right to decent existence. The people of the North, they don't ask for too much. They just ask for what is their own right. And then some people just sit there, they grab it in the name of, I'm sitting there on behalf of the people. And it's just not fair, the level of discrimination, the level of oppression, we had a free medical care. And then when we finished the free medical care, that was when some people who had the opportunity of constituency projects now came up to say they wanted to do free medical care, and they were doing propaganda over it. And I was like, I'm glad, even if you do free medical care from now till election, because I forced you out to come and do it, I'm happy. Because now you're doing it for the people. You know, your health, you're doing what you were supposed to do anyway that you were not going to do, except we came out to do it.
Comrade Gloria.
So we have changed the narrative when it comes to campaigns in Abuja.
Comrade Gloria, I can see
we're looking at the needs of the people, we're talking to the people, we're meeting it, and we're forcing every other party, and I'm glad about that. We've raised the bar, we're forcing every other party to do likewise. They certainly understand that it's not business as usual.
All right, I can see you really want to talk about your manifesto. So let's do this. Now, if you get elected to represent Abuja South constituency at the House of Representatives. Talking about specifics now, what will you do to bring good governance to your constituents? And assuming office, what is that first thing you're going to do for your people?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Didn't get that right.
All right. If you get elected to represent Abuja South constituency at the House of Representatives, what would you do? Now, let's talk about specifics. Let's be specific. What would you do to bring good governance to your constituents? And assuming office, what is that first thing you would do for your people?
Now, there's a master plan. There's what we call the Abuja Master Plan. And you cannot talk of development in isolation from that master plan. Abuja is being developed in phases, and I don't know if it is not yet time for Abuja South. I don't know when it will be time for Abuja South phase. So we will sit down with that development plan and look at every single thing that is going to enable Abuja South to become an industrial hub. That is the #1 priority, because the people of Abuja South are predominantly farmers, and they have the capacity and capability to feed the capital territory. There's no reason why they will farm, and then their farm products, they're stuck with their farm products. They're not able to move their farm products even into the city center. While food is very expensive in the city center, the farmers are poor. You now have the periphery of the periphery in the capital territory. It's terrible. And so my first priority will be the economic life of the people. You know, and then by that we'll be talking about taking food from the farm straight to the table, everything that it takes. Now, as a legislator, you have 3 functions: the issue of the law, you know, being a lawmaker, your oversight functions, and then the ability to attract, you know, investment and development into your constituency. I will completely explore the three areas side by side, while every enabling law is looked at to ensure that as a fundamental human right, we address what the people are entitled to educationally, developmentally, and then the basic rights to life, healthcare, the basic things. Alongside, we will do the oversight function such that we will look. The FCT, there's no light. Light is completely tied to security. You know, there's so many intricate connecting webs that connect development with the basic rights that the people have. I read international relations and strategic studies, and I have been in advocacy and development work for upwards of 30 years, all my adult life. I'm a multilateral specialist. I was former commissioner multilateral relations before I became a commissioner in that field. I had been working with multilateral organizations. There's so many things that people are, you know, interested in bringing to the development world. You can't do it at the non-profit level. And so if I get elected to represent the people, I will be able to bring about all of these development partners to come into Abuja South. Now, after Kuje prisons, the international community has come to realize that being in the city center of Abuja, you are not safe if Kuje is not safe. So until all of us are safe, until the least of us is safe, every one of us is not safe. So I will look into the lawmaking, I will do my oversight duties, and I will attract international development, international partnership massively into Abuja South. There will be industrialization. People will not need to go outside Abuja South to find satisfaction. In fact, tourists will come to Abuja South to come and find out how the development came about. My first 100 days in office will be celebrated with so many industrial hubs coming up in small units. Like I said, you cannot give what you don't have. So I'll urge people to, you know, be detribalized, think about their interests this time. When people are voting for the acts, when there's an election in the woods and trees decide to vote for the axe because they believe that the axe is one of them, it is that axe that will be used to cut down trees to make more axe. This is an election that is about the proletariat and the political elites that have exploited them for years. This is a time they should sit down and pick their candidates like they are picking beans. This is the time they should use a fine-tooth comb to look at the integrity of each candidate and vote based on what they want their future to be like. It's no longer business as usual. If and indeed, like we believe, that our votes are now going to count, and there are enough candidates who have actually brought out themselves to be on the ballot, it is now time to come out massively and cast that vote to change the future of this nation, beginning with Abuja South. I love my people of Abuja South. They are well aware of what they need at a time like this, and I have confidence that come February 25th, I'll be voted in to give them that sense of decent life that is not too much to ask for.
All right, Comrade Gloria, at this point we need to take a break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Politics Tonight. I have been speaking with the NNPP candidate for Abuja South Federal Constituency, Comrade Gloria Okolugbo. We're talking about the party's agenda for 2023. All right, Comrade, many analysts are of the view that the influence of the NNPP does not go beyond Kano and some northwest states. I'd like to know if anything has changed.
That's an uninformed view. It's assumed that because His Excellency, the former governor of Kano State, wielded and still wields a very strong following in Kano State, there is a political and mischievous attempt to try to say that it's limited to Kano State. Unfortunately, and they will find it to be so during the election, that, you know, the worst mistake you can make as a politician is to underestimate your opponent. And it's okay for us if they want to humor themselves and try to convince themselves that that is the position. His Excellency, Engineer Musarabi Ukwankwaso, has been going around this country commissioning offices in every single state of this country. And the outings there, the photographs coming out of there speak for themselves. In fact, now he's going on the road trips and he's stopping every local government before he gets to the city center. And the kind of crowd, some of us can't even move with him because of the kind of crowd and following. We're not talking about hirelings. We're used to people, you know, we're seeing the videos and everything where they're handing them money, and even when they hand them money, they don't want to even stay till the end of the campaign. His Excellency has given to us, the candidates who came on board, a ready-made structure we call the Kwankwasia. These are people who follow through, you know, who follow him because of the ideals he represents. They follow him without looking for money. They follow him because they believe that with what he has done, if he becomes president of this country, the kind of turnaround that we will find. And it's a kind of belief that is not, you can't fake it, you know. And most of the candidates that have been attracted to come on board the NNPP with him are the same kind of candidates. Like attracts like. You know, so there is the formation of solid structures that have been meticulously built over the months without making noise. And so everybody who is contesting under the NNPP platform has their solid structure, both for the state houses of assembly, the House of Representatives, the senatorial candidates, and the gubernatorial candidates. Don't forget, every politics is local. So NNPP is ready, it is poised, it is structured, it is well, established on solid foundation. And come the elections, it will resound at the polls. And those who have been just saying it because they want propaganda, because they know that our people kind of tend to say, when they feel that, somebody is not going to win, they will say, well, let me not waste my vote. Unfortunately, that's not going to work for them this time around, because the people are wiser. And the people who are the grassroots following of all the candidates under NNPP, and those who also have studied and known His Excellency, who is the presidential candidate of this party, know better than that. So unfortunately, that propaganda is already dead on arrival. NNPP is a national spread party, and we're waiting. It's just a few weeks' time to go to the polls, and that will be made obvious.
All right. So earlier in the week, your party inaugurated a 1,053-member presidential campaign council. It's just a few weeks to the elections. How much ground can the council cover?
The floor.
Comrade Gloria, earlier in the week, your party, the NNPP, inaugurated a 1,053 presidential campaign council. And of course, it's just a few weeks to the election. So I want to know how much ground can the council cover?
Campaign council has been working. I think I'm not the party's spokesperson. I believe that the party spokesperson came on board after the inauguration, and I watched that interview where he addressed that matter. The campaign council has been on board and has been working with us, both as individual candidates in our campaigns, moving with us at the grassroots level, also moving for all of these months. If you watch the trend of NNPP, we are not just beginning to flag off. But if you want to be sincere to yourself, what we have been having has been more than flag off campaigns. When His Excellency goes round to commission offices of candidates, it has been on for several months. So the inauguration of the campaign council was a formality, as it were, and now flags are being handed over to candidates. However, the council has been in place. The members of the council are not strangers to the candidates and to the presidential candidates. And so they have been doing a lot of work, massive work. Again, I remind you, every politics is local. It's not the crowds, I was telling you about Abuja South, how we are forcing people to now make their campaigns to become about the people themselves. It's no longer about just renting crowds and going and sitting down and shouting and talking to rented crowds. We have been doing the real work with the real people, not the artificial politics. We have been connecting with the people, and the campaign council, every single member of that council has been an active participant with the party, right from when we flagged off these campaigns, and it's been consistent.
All right, let's talk about women again. Women representation in politics and governance in Nigeria is still a far cry from the 35% affirmative action agreed upon in Beijing. What do you think are those factors hindering participation of women in politics?
Women's participation is a far cry because we are not addressing the issue of women's participation as we should, unfortunately. There's a lot of noise about supporting women's participation in politics. But when it comes to the practical thing in the field, it's all rhetorics. There's no flesh to it, beginning with development partners and also those on the ground. Women's participation is two ways. They work at the party level as officials in the party, and they also come out to contest for elections. Thereafter, when we finish with the polls, there's also the issue of appointments, So when we put the cart before the horse and we start talking about 35% appointive offices. When we try to push 35% minimum for appointments, and you don't even have up to 10% in parliament to push that law, because don't forget, affirmative action is what is meant to bridge the gap, to help us to catch up. But you see how many times the bills, no matter how well packaged, were shut down at the National Assembly. We thought that by the time we got to this next electoral cycle, we would have regigged and we would have, sat down and realized that the most important thing is to actually support women in every way that we can, to see that women actually come out and contest elections and win elections and occupy elective positions, especially in parliament. Because at the end of the day, most of the things that happen in the land are about the laws of the land. Most of the policies have to do with the laws of the land, and then the parliament is what is unique about democracy. The parliament is what sustains, what makes the democratic experience what it is. So when you don't have enough women in parliament, that is why a number of us, despite what it took to emerge, you had to do all you can, just like your male counterparts, to emerge. And don't forget, it's not a joke. It's not just about rhetorics for you to say that you have to, in every walk of life, do double, much more, and be able to excel, much more than anybody else if you want to emerge in anything as a woman. The society is structured in such a way that you are already swimming against the tide, But we have come up, we have been through so much in our professions before you get to a point where you will emerge like this, and say you are standing for elective office. It behoves on us as a people, if we actually mean that we want increase in women's participation in politics, we should actually address it from the point of view of making the environment friendly for women to engage in the political process. And that has a lot to do with, my own naira as a woman seems to have less value than that of a man. So he would actually be given the first consideration, and that doesn't have anything to do with basically male and female out there as gender, but on the level of, when it comes to do with resources, determining who has what, when and where, you find that the boys' brigade is at work, they easily align with themselves and they can talk to themselves. And basically, as a mother that we are, you don't have to, as a woman, you don't have to lose your femininity to get into the process. Because your femininity, you can throw in your femininity just like a man can throw in his masculinity into the process. And what you bring on the table will be very different from what a man brings on the table.
All right.
And at a point in time where what you bring to the table is what is needed, then sometimes you might even have an advantage. It is your ability to uncover that advantage, to swim against that tide, to be determined and be focused and say, you know what, this is where we are going. So I will encourage myself and also encourage every woman out there, especially those who are vying for seats in parliament, and anybody who is serious about increasing women's participation in politics should engage this process now before it's too late.
All right,
to have
Gloria,
the numbers we need
we're
in all the
gradually running out of time
across the nation.
Let me quickly
we have just
ask
a few
you.
weeks to conclude that. If we miss that, I can assure you that we will also miss the line for appointed positions.
We're gradually running out of time, so let me quickly ask you about your presidential candidate. Do you think he has what it takes to win the 2023 elections?
I'm surprised you're even asking that question. Out
Why
of
are you surprised?
all the presidential candidates, I don't think when I decided what platform I wanted to take, I didn't hesitate when I approached the NNPP, and what was strictly because of the principle, the presidential candidates, and that's because of his track record. who better than he now in this kind of... We said we're going to try a general. We tried a general. Where are we today? He's been a defense minister. He's been a governor. He's been on the boards. He's been on the board of NDDC. He knows the South. He's been a civil servant for 17 years. He's been a senator. For God's sake, he has all that it takes. You don't go to the market and buy experience. I'm sorry. We cannot experiment with Nigeria. He's completely detribalized, and he took time to ensure that he consults with the Christian community before he chose a running mate. What else are we looking for? If we look at the blueprints that he brought out, he talked about setting up committees at the local level that will work in the 774 local government areas. He has a master plan. He's strong. He is energized. This is the time he has to serve his country. Several outings before now, he has had to do the give and take, even when he had this. The following His Excellency has dates back 35 years. But because he is a committed Nigerian who wants Nigeria to work, he's never been that desperate like it has to be only him. And even when people were like, he would want to insist that he should be the one to contest, he puts national consideration before his personal consideration over and over again, until a time like this when it is obvious that we need a change in Nigeria.
All right.
We need a change in direction. We need somebody who knows how to do what. This is the opportune time to have him to put things in place. He's young, he's vibrant, he has the qualifications, and I can't say more. It's, I can't say more, except people just don't want to own up to it. But the reality is that his credentials speak for itself, and he's the man we need to watch, and he's the man we need right now. Anybody who tries to underestimate that does that to his peril.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Gloria Okolugbo. Sadly, we couldn't cover all of our discussion, but I'm sure we're going to bring you back on the program. Thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight. She is the NNPP candidate for Abuja South Federal Constituency. Thank you so much for coming on Politics Tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVCNewsNG and at Olajumoke00 using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Join us on Monday, actually. Digging beyond the headlines. I am Olajumoke Olatunji.